Down a hole, here we go. Click that sub, lose control. Hey, hey, ho. Spill the tea, trip on truth. Dive head first, no rescue crew. Down a hole, let's fall. Laugh till we lose all self-control. Too weird, too real, that's the goal. You're not alone. You're down a hole. You're down
All right, let's start from the
Well,
beginning.
tomorrow I'll find out. Okay.
All right. Hey, everybody, welcome to Down a Hole. It is the podcast with me, Neil Flam, and my friend, my great friend and fraternity brother, Shiv Charan, or we call him Shiv Hulassi, pledge name Fish. I call him Fish a lot, so you'll hear that a bunch during the podcast. And it is just two people that have something going on in their brains, just talking, right? Just talking, and we'll see how it's going. So, Fish, say hello to everybody.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shiv, and my pledge name was Jellyfish. So Neil and I have been very good friends since 1990. God bless God. So
1997, the summer of 1997. So that's 29 years. 29 years we've been friends.
amazing.
That is amazing.
It is a
So,
blessing.
yeah, it is a blessing too. So, Fish and I were talking, or actually, he was doing a lot of the talking, and he was discussing how he is working on something in regards to Luke, and he was going to write this out. And I've read a lot of stuff that Fish has done, and to me, it doesn't really hit where I think the intention is that Fish wants to really impart on people. And as we were talking on the phone, I thought it would be a better idea if we spread this to the masses here and we had a discussion over the interwebs. I am in the Mount Pleasant, just outside of Charleston, South Carolina area. And Fish, where are you located?
I'm in Astoria, Queens, New York City.
There you go. Perfect. So there is some distance between us. That's physical distance. Doesn't mean we can't have a discussion. So, Fish, let's get into it. You were talking to me about Luke, and what were your thoughts, your initial thoughts on Luke?
My initial thoughts on Luke was based on him being a Gentile physician who was able to write the New Testament and have a Gentile being incorporated into the New Testament. His views on the Master. And me being a physician going through my trial, I've always wanted to learn more about how he was able to change his looks, his cultural looks, to accept Christianity as I have accepted this faith in my odd or peculiar way.
So, how did it all begin for you?
Um, it began because I have some friends who are in recovery, and there's one of the founders of the recovery program. His name is Dr. Bob, Robert Smith. And I've always been fascinated by Dr. Smith's views, and I've always wanted to write a story about him, myself as a physician, and write about the physician Luke and Hippocrates of Kos. Use these three concepts about how we've gone through our own challenges, and how I wanted to make a statement, or even like a metaphorical statement, that from different cultures we can all grow together with the same background that we've all had by taking the Hippocratic Oath, but going through our own darkness as well. And I wanted
Okay.
to find out, did Luke go through a darkness as well before he found the light?
Okay.
And
And just so people are aware, I'm in recovery, and Dr. Bob is one of the founders of the program Alcoholics Anonymous. And something that I learned early on, and I find it kind of amusing, is that Dr. Bob was a practicing proctologist. I think that's kind of funny. But anyway, just digging around in the butthole. another hole. Anyway, I'm sorry, Fish. Go ahead.
And down we go the rabbit hole from the butthole.
Here
No,
we go down
all
a hole for sure.
yes. I'd always been fascinated by the idea that as I've gotten older, faith has been part of my growth. And I've grown up in a Western Eastern household. And when I
Tell
was
me more
really
about that. Tell me more about that. You say Western Eastern.
well,
What's the Western part? What's the Eastern part?
I'm a Hindu who went to Sunday school as a young boy in Guyana. We learned about Christianity because we had English Sunday school teacher who would take care of us during the weekend as our parents were working, and it was based on trust. So, as a Hindu boy, I learned about the Master Jesus Christ, and I learned about Moses, especially Moses and the Master Jesus Christ, because we saw films together. And I remember as much as 1978, being 6 years old and watching these screens, and it fascinated me that I could believe in Raman, Krishna, but still be influenced and not be forced to think about faith in a different way, in an imperial way. So I was able to grow when I came to the US. I was 7 years old, Fajin, but I still held on to the Eastern faith, Eastern Vedic faith as well. But the irony is, though, everything is in English. So even though the priest sung in Hindi, I didn't understand the Hindi translations, but I can understand what the gospel meant. I can understand what a lot of the songs that are sung in.
No idea where we left off. But we were, I know where we left off. We were talking about the coexisting of the Western and Eastern faiths and philosophies. So you would be going to a Sunday school that was sometimes in Hindi, but the songs were in English, or were they
No, well,
songs in Hindi?
the songs were in Hindi. The religious songs were in Hindi. They're called bhaktis, bhakti bhajans, and they were in Hindi. The priest would speak in Hindi, then he would translate to English. This is at the temple services, and then on Sundays we would go to Sunday school. And I think it was that we adopted through the British back in the early 70s, late 60s, because we got independence, I believe, 65. And so we still inherited the English colonial viewpoint of how indoctrination was supposed to be. But but my village was a Hindu village who learned. We had a Lutheran church there.
Is
My
this all in
school was actually
Guyana?
called in Guyana, yes.
Okay.
I actually went to an English school in Guyana. It was a Presbyterian Lutheran school.
So you didn't, so you were living in Guyana. And what's the primary language of the people
It's
in Guyana?
English.
Oh, okay. But the services were Hindi.
And the church services were in Hindi, but we spoke English also. We didn't speak any other language because of the imperial rule.
Okay. And is this a Catholic church?
This was an English Lutheran
Lutheran.
uh,
Okay.
church.
Okay. That's why I asked, because most Catholic churches do it in Latin. That's why I asked. Okay.
So, if I may say, hurrah, hurrah for the Queen, as I would say in my days, anyway. But
So, okay, so you had all this education and dichotomy of two different philosophies, and then we got to know each other from the start of an advanced medical school that you continued on and have a medical doctorate degree, and your some of your work now is in mental health and recovery. And then, oh, I'm sorry, my Outlook invites keep going off. We're gonna fix that later on. And so you have all this stuff going on, and now you have some free time to allow you to write and do this podcast where you can provide some additional information to the mass, to in mass out there. So we're now talking about Luke. What have you learned about Luke so far, other than what you've shared?
I've learned that he was loyal. He was a loyal friend to St. Paul.
Hmm.
That and I believe in loyalty and friendship, and that's something I learned from him. Was he was with, from my understanding and my research and my reading, he was with Paul when he was doing his last moments, and he would have probably been there when he was beheaded also in '68. Um, and and then I reflected on how would he feel having left the execution of St. Paul and drifting back into the Mediterranean. What would be going through his mind? What aches or regret or positive thoughts would he be experiencing with this saint who saw a vision of Christ? And I wanted to go from there because I've never seen a vision of Christ, but I'm also someone who believes in both faiths. So, and I wanted to see how I can relate that to a medical perspective based on how I was taught in my training.
Okay, and how do you see it kind of coming together so far?
I see come together so far as we were both individuals who believed in helping others. Luke and I were both believe in helping others. I believe that we were both, or we are both, individuals who want to carry a message of hope and also bring others into the fold because Luke as a Gentile was not an initial believer, and neither am I. But at the same time, just because you have that same link to Hippocrates, I wanted to bring that into the picture as well, so I can understand as a physician where I came from as I grew up in my narrative.
Now, I'm going to take a step back. Luke is a Gentile. And for those that don't know, Gentile means somebody that is not born a Jew. And typically, a Jew is somebody that has a Jewish mother. So, what was Luke's religion, or did he have religion back then? Was he a pagan? What was going on?
Well, again, from what I'm understanding, and be very careful about what you're reading on the internet because a lot of it is not uh, uh,
Accurate?
not accurate exactly. But from my understanding, he grew up in Antioch and in Troas. They were both highly influenced by Christianity even back then. So Luke would have had access to Christianity through the either the actual apostles or through believers of the apostles, to or the
And
other
who
apostles.
are the apostles?
The 12 apostles were the ones who were at the supper, except for Judas, who was hung himself after betraying the Lord, which is another story I have on my own also. But he was replaced by Bartholomew, Nathaniel, and so there were 12 apostles who were at at Pentecost when the Master rose again. And Luke would have had experience with them before he met with Paul, because the apostles were all over the Middle East. So he
Hmm.
would have probably had Christian influence or had met with converted Gentiles who may have had a Greek background back then also.
Okay.
Uh, there were a lot of people from Cyprus, people from Persia living in Antioch, people from Syria living in Antioch, Greeks living in Antioch also. So Luke may have had a Greek background. Romans were living in Antioch also. So it was like a fusion of different cultures there. But from what I discovered, his name was Lucas or Lukakis were the two names that were referenced to Luke. So he may have had a Greek background or a Hellenic background, and that's how he was able to flourish in Antioch and in Troas, where I learned he may have met St. Paul.
Okay. And, for points of reference, Jesus died, and then you're saying 68 years later after his death, this is kind of when this all takes place.
Yes. He actually got a book called Theophilus. He was writing to a gentleman named Theophilus who may have been a Roman believer also who wanted to know about Paul. So the book of Luke and the book of Acts are based on Luke's writings to this this proctor or this Roman administrator named Theophilus, and he's writing this after the death of Saint Paul, but he's reflecting on what he learned from Saint Paul and other apostles before him. So we're going back around like if this happened in this story started being written in 68 AD, he may have learned about may have encountered Saint Paul about 52 AD, or 20 years after the crucifixion.
Okay. Okay.
So I did some timeline referencing also, so I can just get some ideas of how old he could be or what he experienced. Because a lot of the research that his influence was written by I think Saint Mark and Saint Matthew's literature. He got a lot of his ideas from those two books,
Okay. And
From
Luke
Mark
wrote his own book in the Bible, New Testament Bible.
yes.
All right. And for my edification, what's his book like in the New Testament?
I like his idea because he spoke about a lot of the healings that the master did. At least 17 healings that he did, and he was able to resourcefully link that to the Old Testament um, prophecies.
Okay.
And as a doctor, I wanted to learn more about those 17 healings because is what we try to do physically. But his view on it was that there was a spiritual basis to it, and after we're healed, we either move forward by setting a message also with that, or we may drift backwards also
Okay.
where we don't do anything after we're healed, and we continue on without making a difference.
Can you name some of those healings?
Well, one healing was with he said the man who had dropsy, a man who had swelling, and there was another healing of a woman who was bleeding for 12 years. That could have been a gynecological concern that she was experiencing.
Okay. And what were the outcomes, I guess, also of these healings? I mean, they're cured,
There,
but what was done?
well, with the woman, she actually touched the master's garment. She didn't touch his body, or he didn't touch her.
And when you refer to master, who are you talking about?
Jesus Christ.
Okay. So
So,
she touched the garment.
and she was healed. So it goes to show the power of healing is not necessarily through physical touch. There's also a healing where the master does to a centurion servant
What
far
about
away.
the guy that had the
The
swelling?
swelling he was also healed, and he was able to walk. He was able to show the priest that he was healed by physical touch.
Hmm. What else? Do you know of any others offhand?
Another offhand was Simon Peter's mother-in-law who had fever, and he went to her home in I think it wasn't in Jerusalem, and he healed her. And as soon as she woke up, she did service. She prepared meals for them. So it shows that there was gratitude in this woman being healed by the master, and serving, giving her thank you by feeding him Mass with Peter's brother Andrew, and the other apostles who were there. There was also another healing where he healed a man who was actually possessed by many demons called Legion, multiple demons,
Okay.
and he put
Which is a
those
movie. There's a movie called Legion as well. I don't know, just for
and he put those demons into pigs, and the pigs ran off of a cliff. And I
and died.
learned, yeah, and I
Okay.
learned that though that man he may have healed may have been a Gentile, because pigs are not used in the Jewish community.
No, they're
So
dirty
he would,
animals.
so he would have been probably either a Samaritan or a Gentile that Luke that Master had healed.
Hmm.
So I'm piecing piece by piece stories or my own interpretations of where he could have been located, where the master could have been located as he's doing these healings. So I'm actually doing a lot of research on the internet, and I have about five books I bought from eBay, which I'm
Okay.
reviewing also on Luke's life. But
All right.
it's just incredible that I'm able to internalize a lot of this faith, not because of him being a physician, but him being a believer. And when I say a believer, obviously for me, it's a hybrid belief, because I still have holds, or the past hold on me is both Vedic and Islamic.
All right. So, where are you in the study so far? How far do you think you have to finish your studies as you write your book, short story, or whatever to um, work with this podcast here for people to
Well,
see later on?
well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me discuss this and share this with you, because I would call it more of a manuscript or like a scroll. I like using the word scroll.
Okay, because you're weird, but that's okay.
I'm odd. I'm an
You're
odd
odd,
duck.
yes.
But
So am I.
I think right now I'm still gathering information because what I've been doing is I've been writing it. I've been doing research in two perspectives: the women in the Book of Luke mentioned,
Okay.
and the 17 healings in the book mentions. So
Okay.
I'm approaching it from a feminine perspective because Luke did the most research on the females in the New Testament I've discovered, because he actually mentions Mary's meeting of Gabriel.
Okay.
Mother Mary is not mentioned many times in other testaments or the other gospels very well. And it's only in the book of Luke that we hear about Luke's meeting, Luke's mom meeting, Mother Mary meeting with Saint John, the Baptist mother. So we don't hear that or read about that in other testaments. And I wanted to write about that because it's very important to talk about like a motherly element to Luke's gospel as well, not just about the Lord's or the Master's healing, also about how came about that an angel spoke to not just Mary, the same angel, Gabriel, but also spoke to Luke's father. I mean, John's father, John the Baptist's father, Zechariah, and gave him a promise that they would have a son as well. So I wanted to bring that
So
story in.
now are you more focused on the healings of women currently, or are you
Not
doing
just
both?
the both of them, the healings and also the women in the New Testament.
Okay.
So
So
there's
how
there
much
two
further do you have to go to finish your scroll? We'll call it a scroll.
or manuscript or tableau
Manuscript.
or whatever word you
Okay.
want. Well, right now it's going to take a while because I haven't been able to go through the books that I have. I've only read Theophilus, and one is a biography of Luke. Most of the information I've gotten from the books of the the healing
Hmm.
and also about the women in are from internet research, and I have to be very careful or judicious about which sites I go to get this information. So
Hmm.
I've been doing medieval searches, Middle Age searches, going back to church fathers' writings. Say not necessarily like Wikipedia or Britannica or BBC. I would do a search, say for example, um, healings of Christ in the Book of Luke from a medieval perspective, or church fathers and medieval perspectives of the healings of Christ in the Book of Luke. So I read about Saint Augustine, for example, and I haven't gotten much information on him with it. But if I were to look at two church fathers, one would be Saint Augustine, because a lot of his influences has made modern Christianity. From my experience, Thomas Aquinas, he actually had an influence by Aristotle. So his views, the Greek logical view was into Christianity as well. So I'm using those two backgrounds when I do my search because I don't want to just say I got all my information on that would be that would be appropriate to
Mhm.
just get
Right.
do a Wikipedia search and get all that's not really research. It's just typing typing words in.
Yeah. All right. So what I'm going to gather is perhaps, keeping each other accountable. We'll give you a week's time to do some reading and some studying. So maybe we can meet at this time next week and you'll tell us what you've found so far, or maybe we'll discuss one of your other manuscripts, scrolls, tableaus, whatever. You know,
Cuneiform writing,
what?
cuneiform writing.
Cuneiform writing?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like on clay tablets.
And that's why it's called Down a Hole. Anyway, how does that sound? Fish?
It sounds reasonable. It sounds very nice, actually. It sounds very nice just talking to you and being able to smile to actually feel my face lift up because I haven't been uh, emotional place, been in a good space for the past couple of days. So it's very good to.
Get it out there.
Uh,
Maybe we'll talk about that too. Maybe we'll
I
talk
don't
about
mind. I
that
mean,
next week.
the general way I can always talk about my past without linking it to recovery because there's a lot I am unable to share.
Yeah, whatever you feel comfortable doing. That
Yeah,
we
because
talked
of
about that early on.
but I finished another manuscript which was based on my experience from the journey actually. And that one is done. It's done with. It's over 500 pages.
All right, let's talk about that next week then.
Of course, yeah, that's a better idea than Luke, because Luke for more more research, but this one is finished.
And then maybe I'll find a place to host it for people to read.
Oh, that would be a blessing.
Yeah.
That
We'll
would,
we'll, we'll try that out.
yeah, definitely. So I hope you don't see you know hydrant on the screen, fire hydrant on the screen,
You're
because
good.
I can't see my face. All I see is a shadow. So
You're good.
I look at the fire hydrant.
No, no, no. You look fine. You look as good as you've ever looked. Oh my gosh. You're on. All right, folks. Don't go anywhere, fish. I'm gonna sign us off for now. Thanks for watching Down a Hole with Neil and Fish, and we'll talk to
Down
you
a
next week.
hole. Here we go. Click that sub.